Greetings, everybody! Welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire! Are you ready to dive back in time today? Once again, your host here, Danton Dracovin, is going to be opening up a time-based portal and taking us back to 1995! We're going to be learning about another CCG today. Champions! Which is a CCG kind of, but also not, and weird. Today is going to be a really strange exploration into this entire series of explorations we've been doing, but hey, time portal's open. Let's get going. Do remember before we go, hey, it'd be wonderful if you're not subscribed. To do so helps out immensely, and also do all the algorithm things, and make sure you let me know. Have you tried this game? If not, would you try it as a game that is both collectible and not? We'll discuss. Let's get going. Time portal's open. Champions! Which is two games, but they're the same game with different skins? Yeah. Where to begin with this one? Let's start with the basics. It's a 20-minute game played with 2 players. There is theoretical rules for more than 2 players, but those are more community-based. Really, the game itself is designed for 2 players. And it is technically 2 sets of games, Monster Wars and Medieval Battle. It's a fantasy fighting CCG, it's referred to as. And each of these games has 2 types of cards. They are the character cards, which take the form of monsters or warriors, depending on if you're Monster Wars, Medieval Battles. Or specials, which are either spells or weapons, again, depending on if you're Monster Wars, Medieval Battles. Monsters use spells, warriors use weapons. Very obvious, that one. Each card, if it's a character, has an attack and defense, and the specials will boost an attack or defense. The artwork tends to be, and the text on the cards tend to be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. The very unique part about it is the character cards have scratch-off areas. Yes, scratch-off. You will literally scratch off the cards when you play with them, and eventually no longer be able to play with them. Yeah. We'll really get into how this is played and done, but this is one of those unique aspects of it. Now, the other thing about it is we know 2 of the major publishers and 2 kind of minor publishers that I kind of have names for. Look, this is a complex one because we know that there are 2 companies that are heavily linked to it. FX Schmid and Gibsons Games. Of those 2, Gibsons Games is the only still surviving. There are other companies that are listed with some of the cards and images that do exist that I feel like it's important to say could be linked to them, but whether they are or not is kind of difficult. Target Games is one of them, which is out of Sweden, and and another group that is out of Canada, which is also gone, technically. Yeah. They are unfortunate that they have, the only one that still exists on its own is Gibsons Games. There are some other companies we will talk about here too. But we're going to focus on FX Schmid and Gibsons Games, because those are the 2 that tend to be linked most directly with Champions. The others might be publishers for other parts of the world, because Gibson's out of the UK, FX Schmid was out of Germany, and the other 2 are based out of I think it was Sweden and Canada. Oh, sorry. Forgot I had to have that up front. I should hit the button again. Silly me. Anyway, yeah. So that's a poster that was advertising it there. You can see the art. That's very interesting. Let's start with FX Schmid, because they're technically gone, but also not. Basically, they were an old German manufacturer of playing cards, board games, and puzzles that was basically independent for about 100 years until 96, a year after this. Basically, Ravensburger bought them out, made them a subsidiary, the publishing house. you know anything about Ravensburger, it's a pretty big name when it comes to publishing a lot of games, toys, and stuff like that. And it does have a market in the US and does a lot of board games too. Things like I can mention off like Puerto Rico, Castles of Burgundy are under one of their things. On them themselves, there's other various games that are named under them. Lorcana, the Disney game. Yeah. The people that make the Disney CCG own FX Schmid now. Technically. Took it over. So that's one of the sides of this. The other is the one that still exists now, Gibsons, or Gibson Games. They still exist. They're still independent. They've been around. Again, they're an independent, family-owned, they're technically more jigsaw board game, but it does seem as though both these two groups, which aren't really into CCGs, got into Champions, or have a hand in it. And you can see how Champions isn't meant to be collectible like other collectible card games. Sure, I could collect it, but also they are pieces to be used and played with in a lot of ways. So this is a very interesting position to be in for Champions. It is a much more unique and interesting game this way. There's a deck. What do we know about its history? Unfortunately, not a lot. Here's one of those things about Champions. We know very little about the actual history of the game overall. Unfortunately, it looks like just the two, basically, deck sets, Monster Wars and Medieval Battles, were the only two ever produced. Now, these did have starter decks like this one, and boosters, but which would also expand the cards you could play with. But there's a lot of issues we're going to get into, and misprints, maybe? Different versions of stuff? There's a lot about this game which is weird and unusual, and makes it that it's like, this was the one release of it. How it sold, how well it did. This is a game you probably can't easily play on Tabletop Sim. I'm going to tell you that. I mean, it's got scratch-off stuff on it. Let's talk about some of the weird aspects of this. The mechanics of it, promotions, misprints. Then we'll talk about the products, because this kind of sets up for where everything, and then the cards, and then the rules. And it sets up a lot of view on this thing. We can start with various types of misprints. Maybe? Here's a perfect example of this. These are both Mace card. They technically do two different things. I'm sure you can see it there. One boosts 2, and the other boosts 3. Or 1, I'm sorry. I'm saying the wrong name. But yeah, one's 2, one's 1. They have different pictures, and they also mentioned Target games on them. I mentioned Target, people out of Sweden. But, like, they have the exact same text. They kind of are both the same, but they're also both named Mace and both different. Are these meant to be the same or different? No one's really sure, like, if this is a misprint or not. There are a lot of cards like this which are, it's hard to tell when they are supposed to be something and when there's not. And there's others that are more obvious. A much more obvious one was, see what's different here. In Wild Wind, one of them has the tornado upside down. It's just upside down. And all of these do the same thing with the same text. So this one's a little bit more, oh hey, that's probably a mistake. Again. And then there are other general misprints that you can find over the course of things. But like this one's another example of two different cards which are vastly different but also the same. So it's hard to tell which one's which. One has an attack of 2, defense of 1. One has an attack of 1, defense of 3. What does this mean? Are they supposed to be the same? There's some cards that are off-center, some problems with symmetry, things that are problems where the scratch-off panels were added to the card that they don't set centrally with the values on them, so you can kind of maybe see sometimes what's underneath them. So yeah, there's some there's some issues there. Here's some of those cards that you can see in there, but also you can kind of see some of the numbers on some of these kind of like a little off center. But the other thing that's part of this entire group here is Quarrybeast. Why am I mentioning this? It's just bad. You notice what numbers it has there? Zeros for both attack and defense. Was it supposed to be like this? Who knows? But it has zeros for both. The only reason to put it out is maybe like be dead weight, absorb. Because again, I'll tell you, when you scratch off stuff, the numbers go down. I'll show you some scratched off cards, but those numbers go down. 0 can't go down. It is 0. Now, for the cards, and again, we'll kind of dive into this a little bit more. The highest value you can find on any cards, which I wasn't able to find a good picture of, is 5. For attack, that's Clansman McCall for Medieval Battles and Mummy for Monster Wars. For defense, it's Nomad Solo for Medieval Battle and the Beast for Monster Wars. Those seem to be the highest values that I could find people discussing online. Whether there's higher than that, it's hard to say, because again, there kind of is card lists to this, because the starters all have the same, but there's also booster packs. There was a promotion. Now, I don't have a good picture of the promotional stuff because I couldn't find it, but there was the Skull promotion and Dagger promotion. If you could collect 5 skulls, print on the back of foil booster pack wrappings and send them with 2 1-pound coins and fill out the Skull promotion card with your name and address, you receive a starter pack basically for half price. There was also a Dagger promotion by collecting 10 Dagger cards and sending them, and these are both sent to Gibsons Games, along with a stamped addressed envelope to receive a free booster pack. And if you get the 5, you get the 5 daggers and a starter pack and 1 on the back of a foil pack. So the Dagger promotion was better than the Skull promotion in a lot of ways. The Skull promotion lasted until basically the end of 1995, and the Dagger promotion lasted until the end of 96. So while these were out in 95 at a date, a date in 95, when they ended is kind of like up in the air a little bit. Let's talk about the products that were here. So first off, we have Monster Wars. We can focus on this a little bit. I am going to talk a little bit about both sets when I talk about this, because Monster Wars and Medieval Battles mirror each other. So first off, we have to talk about the starters. And I will show off and go through the medieval stuff after I go through the monster stuff here a little bit. So these packs actually had 46 cards. It says 45 on it. Okay, that's kind of weird. Yeah. Like, there's supposed to be 24 monster cards and 16 spell cards. At the top of the deck, though, there were 2 monster cards that weren't actually monster cards in the monster deck. This was Viking Bogey and Knight Ravane, which are from Medieval Battle. At the very top of the weapons cards is 2 medieval... these are basically Medieval Battle cards, which aren't Medieval Battles. In the other set for Medieval Battles, there's Earth Monster and Pirate Demon, which are from the monster set. So, yeah, there is basically, in here, 2 cards that were from the monster set. No, 2 cards from the Medieval Battle set, and the Medieval Battle set, 2 cards from the monster set. Why? Well, we can kind of look into this, why they did this with these starter packs. It says 44, but there is a problem. Again, 46 cards. There are basically 4-ish cards, which are kind of not cards that I would include in that original 44. That kind of puts you down to 42. Think about that. The 4-ish cards are a Champion's promotional card, 2 rules cards, and a Champion wall poster card. So really, and again, there are 46 cards in here, so 4 of them now are not cards you can play with. Well, then you have 42. That seems to be a problem. That's kind of unusual. So, That's probably why 2 extra cards were put in there. And maybe, for whatever reason, the 2 from Monster Wars were put in the Medieval Battle, and the 2 from Medieval Battle were put in the Monster Wars. They messed it up. Maybe they didn't mean to use the cards from the other one, but you're really supposed to just use Medieval Battle cards with Medieval Battle cards, Monster Wars cards with Monster Wars. There really isn't anything against, I guess, mixing them, but there isn't really any reason to mix them. They are technically separate, kind of different colors, a little different. It's a very weird thing. And in some of the packs here, there was a Champion Special Offer card in place of the poster card. And if you collect 2 of them, basically those were the dagger cards. The special offers that you could get. Booster packs. I'm showing off the German one of monster cards, which is probably, I'm going to be assuming, done by our good friend FX Schmid. These were the ones I could find images of for the monster cards. I could find both images from the German medieval battles and the warriors, but for this one, unfortunately, it's only the monster cards. So, yes. There's the booster packs. And booster packs do have unique cards in them, except there is one of the unique things that the 2 cards that show up in the starters that are the extra ones from the other show up in the boosters for their appropriate ones. So the Earthmonger and Pirate Demon that are in Medieval Battle are in the boosters here in Monster. The Monster Wars booster packs would also still actually contain one medieval battle card, and the medieval booster pack would contain 1 Monster Wars battle card. I think this is an idea of you could use them together. Again, I don't think it's expressly stated anywhere, but it's also encouraging you to try both versions of the game. I see too. There's also a special introductory pack which contained 5 cards. It had mini rules in there. A phone number to get a stock of the basic and booster pack is in your local area. But these things are like, I wasn't able to get a lot of information and pictures of a lot of these things. There's also a poster that you could have gotten. Not a lot of them seem to be made. Probably one of each type of thing here. Let's switch over to the medieval battle. Again, we've already gone over a lot of the basics of what's going on in the medieval battle here, because it's just a mirror of the monster ones. Monster Wars, medieval battle. They're, again, basically the same thing with just different numbers and a facelift. It's a weird kind of place to be in. We do have a picture here of the 11 card booster packs here. And again, these are also 10 actual cards you have to keep in mind too. It's that weird thing that it had a quick rules and the champion special offer card in here too. So it's the special offers for the skull or the dagger. It's really 10 cards. And then the special cards, which they had an 11th. And then also one of the cards is one of the other sets. So really, if you're looking just to collect medieval battle cards, you're getting 9? Again, it mentions 11 on here. These are why these numbers are weird to have on the packs. Because the packs aren't accurate to this. Here's the German Warriors cards, packs, too. Let's look at the cards. Just briefly here, these are a bunch of the warrior cards. So this is the medieval battle cards. I just want to kind of show off and briefly chat about the pictures here. You can see the variety of them in here, where we have the different type of warriors and then the equipment down below, the weapons that they use. Of course, then we have the monsters, very similarly there. Again, there's not a lot special about these cards that I have to really go into. They have their quote, which actually doesn't have any special ability. That's the thing is, it just has an attack, it just has a defense, and then the spells for monsters boost one of those. Otherwise, it's just a numbers game. The game is not complex. The numbers might be different, but there's no difference between a witch, a kraken, and a Medusa. They have different numbers, that's it. None of them have special abilities, none of them have special powers. They're just there. Which isn't necessarily bad, but it is weird in a lot of ways. Here's the last thing I wanted to kind of show off a bit under the cards here. Why am I showing this one off here? Because it's scratched off. This is the best example of what it means to have the scratched off. The skulls at the bottom mean something when it comes to playing the game. Otherwise, basically, as you scratch off the numbers on the side, which you start at the top numbers and scratch down on these, their values change. You can see the ultra hard starts as a 3-4, but as soon as it loses some attack, it goes to a 1, and then a 2, which is weird. And then it goes from 4 to a 2 to a 3 to 0 on each side. And when they're both 0 on each side, you really can't use them. That's why the weird-ass questing beast is really terrible, and Quarrybeast, I'm sorry, is kind of hard to understand why it even exists. You know? Why do you exist? Creature that's a 0/0? I don't know. Let's go over the basic rules. I'm sure you've already understood the basic rules. It's comparing numbers. That's it. But there is a game to play with comparing those numbers more than just having them. So, yeah, you choose if you're playing Medieval Battle or Monster Wars. They're technically interchangeable, again, but, like, you can mix them together. You can maybe not. So a monster could use weapons and spells. Warriors could use weapons and spells, etc. They all have the scratch-off areas. You're not supposed to uncover them, except when you're playing, because it weakens your monster's fighting strength. The lowest number is what you use. Huh. So I basically, and this is a starter box, basically, my cards become unusable. Unless you have some way of, like, covering them up or something, like, which is very hard to do. So, 2 players each choose 20 cards from their own collection. This is also kind of an important thing to kind of look at, because if we look at the starter box, which I kind of talked about before, remember it's got that 44 cards, which is really 42 cards, which is really 44 cards. It's meant to be you can divide it into 2 decks, basically, there. That was the entire point of it, well, you can divide it into, remember, you have to have a 20-card deck. You can take that starter, divide it into 12 monsters and 8 spells, and then you have a deck you can kind of play with another player. Sans, you remove a few. Again, you go down to that 20 cards. So you have a 20-card deck from your set, from your collection. You stack the cards face down in front of yourself. You take 5 cards from the top of your hand, from the top of your stack. This is your starting hand. The game takes place in rounds. In each round, one player attacks and the other defends. The player takes turn attacking and defending. The winner is the player who captures the most cards, battle trophies, when the game ends. So you kind of randomly determine who goes first in the first round. So that's basically it. You know, like, we roll a dice or do something and you determine, you know, like, oh, you go first. You're the attacker first, then I'm the defender, then I'm the attacker, you're the defender, and we switch back and forth in these rounds until someone captures the most points, wins the game. Player 1 begins by attacking. They placed 1 to 3 character cards from your hand face up on the table. And then this is 1 to 3 attacks you're making. If you have any special cards with an attack value, you play them, placing 1 or more next to any character cards you play. The other player then defends against the attack. He plays 1 character card from his hand against each of the characters attacking, also adding in 1 or more special cards with the defense value to increase combat values. Pretty simple this way so far. Each battle is decided individually. Attack values, numbers in red, and defense values are totaled. That includes the character's values and special values. The highest value wins. If more than 1 value shows in the panel, the one nearest to the bottom is used. Again, you scratch off as you go. The winning character card stays on the table, together with any special cards. The losing character has the top scratch-off area removed by the victorious player. If it was attacking, scratch off the red panel. If it was defending, scratch off the green panel. It is also captured, together with any special cards the basically person who lost may have used as a battle trophy. The cards may be not used again in this game. So you kind of put those battle trophies to the side. You've been victorious. You've won these cards. The victor then scratches off one of the 5 areas at the bottom of its winning cards to reveal a victory symbol, a skull. Those are the skulls at the bottom of the card. It's a victory symbol. If the total value of both attackers and defenders are the same, it's a draw. All cards are returned to the appropriate player and may not be used again in this game. So draws, remove them from the game. Victor has their cards there. We'll talk about it. Loser, cards become spoils. If you cannot defend against an attack, if a defender does not have to defend against any attack. If he holds only special cards, he can't. You can actually have a hand of just special cards. In this case, the attacker takes one unseen card from the defender's hand and keeps it as a battle trophy. Similar, if the attacker has no characters in play, the defender takes 1 card from his opponent's hands and drop battle trophy. So basically, it's on your turn to attack, and you can attack. A person just gets to take a card from your hand. While the other cards discarded after battle will be stacked face up to show they haven't been used, cards captured in battle trophies are kept in a separate face down pile until the end of the game. The battles are decided. All 1 to 3 of them. Winning cards... Oh, yeah, we'll switch over images here. So, our 3 battles, or 1 to 3 battles, have been decided. Any winning cards still on the table may be picked up and added back into the player's hand. If not, the cards are put to the one side until the end of the game. Both players may draw enough cards from their face-down stack to make a hand of 5 cards. The defender becomes the attacker on the next round. So, yeah, you draw up. Again, you can see the numbers. Basically, it's supposed to be 2 attackers, or two champions to 1 special. So, theoretically, when you're drawing 5 cards out of a 20-card deck, you should probably have, like, 13, 14 champions, characters, and 6 or 7 specials. The chance of getting a full special hand more than once is low, but not impossible. Probably could play with bigger decks, too. But again, like, you know, there's some variety in this entire thing here, because it depends on the ending rules that you're using too. So I assume you could play with bigger decks. We'll kind of go into this entire thing here. So the thing is, why would I bring this back into my hand if I'm victorious? Because I can reuse it again. That's really the big reason why. I'm able to reuse it again. I have that option. I don't need to if it's like taking up my hand and I want to try to draw something bigger. Even though I still won, I can get rid of it. So that's the reason. It's kind of like you're searching for something that's really good that you can keep using as an attacker or defender. Anyway, the game ends when one player has no cards left to make up their hand of 5. Basically, when you can't draw to 5, the game ends. The player that captured the most battle trophies wins. The players have captured the same number. The winner is the player who captured cards with the highest total of the revealed skulls. Basically, whoever has the largest amount of skulls on a card, basically earned that 1 to 5 you can get, wins. Yeah, and they do have like anti-rules kind of for keeping battle trophies, which I think is less important in this one, where you're scratching off stuff anyway. But yeah, when the last number of every card is always 0. When you scratch off all the areas that have been removed, the character will have no attack or defense values and should be replaced. Though it could be used with special cards that have a value in battle of at least 1, so it's not impossible to be useful. Again, I'm looking at you, Quarrybeast. You got the 0s. There's champions. It's a game. Like, I can't possibly describe it in any other way other than this is such a weird CCG, because it technically is one, but also in a lot of ways it's not. Like, it's got scratch-offs. You have to scratch off stuff to use the cards. Like, I can see it's just so... I don't know. That's the more I kind of look into it and think about it. There is no good way to, like, keep track of this stuff outside of you playing the game. Like, I guess that's what you could do if you have a knowledge of what those numbers should be for these cards. But again, with all the random printings and different numbers that do exist, I couldn't trust that. That I would know what the 4 values are on either side. You know, you got the top 2. What are the bottom 3? I don't know. It's a weird game that... It's an interesting concept. I think that's the thing about it. I think we really can't find a game like this anymore because it's never going to keep that collector's value. And yeah, I think that's one of those things about CCGs/TCGs. There is this vague value to the cards that do kind of exist, which even if it's very mild, does make things very important. It makes the collector part of it very important. If not, it's just a card game. Why do you have the randomization? Like in this one, yeah, you got booster packs, which are random. You got the starter sets, which are not random, but yes, that's a lot of starter sets aren't random sometimes. Some of them are, but there are some various ones that have existed, even in Magic, that haven't been random at all. Some randomization, but very little, if any. So you can see, like, I understand that one not being random. This is where you start out with and getting booster packs to get new and interesting cards. Maybe I got that one that has a power. I've got the attack 5 mummy in my monster set. Very dangerous. I could power it up with some cards and make it extra destructible on you. I just don't know. It's so weird of a game. I loved learning about it, and I hope you did too. In this interesting journey into CCG history. It really was an interesting one. But I hope you enjoyed everything today, and I hope you enjoyed joining me for today. Please make sure to check out all the rest of my stuff, whether that's over on Twitch or YouTube. If you're on the Twitch side, hey, always just come and say hi. I do a lot of gaming, variety stuff, all the tabletop related stuff ends up there. But on the YouTube side, hey, do make sure to check out some more of my other videos. Things like live plays, Fall of Advent, well, it's a currently ongoing one, discussing tabletop, and other videos like this. I've got a whole bunch of series on, you know, other interesting historical CCGs that some have some use nowadays. Sometimes you can purchase some of them still, even though they're out of print. Some of them have some community support. Others are just like this one and are just gone. Like, again, you could probably figure out a way to play it online, but it'd be a bitch. Not gonna lie. And I check out my social media if you want any updates or anything with this schedule. Anyway, until the next time we talk about an interesting CCG or TCG in history like this one, or some other very silly tabletop content, I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.